Hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me know if you can. I would like to start this off by saying that finally the DOJ and Pam Bondi have done something correct. And I want to show you this video just because I think it's a great video to watch. I want you guys to see this. This is Don Lemon being arrested by the DOJ, except that it's not. And I want you guys to understand exactly why I'm telling you this. So this video was actually independent journalist Steve Baker, who was handcuffed by Biden's weaponized FBI for daring to report on J6. Now, Don Lemon was arrested today. And now you have the lefties coming out of the woodwork screaming about how independent journalists should be allowed to exercise their First Amendment rights inside churches, and that him being arrested is against the Constitution. It's against everything else. It's false and it shouldn't be happening. And it's a whole thing, right? So we're going to go over what I have saved here. There's a lot going on. But this, I want to just remind everybody, pick this little handy dandy thing up for $1.95 today, just so we could go through and read the First Amendment, okay? I want to go ahead and just read this to you. Amendments to the Constitution of the United States of America. Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievance. All right. Now, I sometimes is not the sharpest tack in the box. We know this. And sometimes words like this and the way they phrase things make it a little easy or hard to understand. But when it says here, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, I'm pretty sure that means that the people that were in the church that Don Lemon and his little band of merry morons invaded, they are then basically trampling all over their First Amendment rights inside that church. And those First Amendment rights, in theory, should supersede the First Amendment rights of the independent journalist Don Lemon. If he had stayed outside the church, if he had stayed on the sidewalk or anything else, should have been perfectly fine. But the fact that he took his little fruity ass inside and did the things that he did is where the issues come in. So I was, this morning, I took my daughter to school, and as soon as I get home, I'm like, hey, what's happening here? Like, my X feed and Instagram and YouTube were kind of going buck wild. And so I opened up X, and the first thing I see is Pam Bondi, and her post says, at my direction, early this morning, federal agents arrested Don Lemon, Traherne Jean Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamil Lydell Lundy, in connection with the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. More details soon. Okay, and I'm like, oh, it's about time. We've all been, and not just me, but a lot of people have been like, hey, good old Pamela, Ms. Bondi, what you doing over there, boo-boo? Because there's been a lot going on with these protests in Minneapolis and all over the place, and no arrests really truly being made. There has not really been any Democrats who have been, put under lock and key like they should have since President Trump took office. And all the stuff has been coming out about what the left has done. I mean, Tim Walz in and of himself should be sitting in a jail cell somewhere right now. Him and Ilhan Omar specifically, and Jacob Frey in Minneapolis, because of all the fraud that's been going on and everything that's coming out about that. And yet they're all still walking around like nothing. No ankle monitors, no nothing, right? So when you see that Don Lemon was arrested, you have to think to yourself, is this being... what's the word I want to use here? Like, fast-tracked? Right, we'll go with fast-tracked. Is this being fast-tracked because of the fact that it is Don Lemon, number one? Because think about what's going to happen here. Because it happens to be a black gay male who has now been arrested when nobody else has really been arrested, you're going to have, what's his face? The dude who looks like he stuck his finger in a socket, with the hair that used to be with wrestling and stuff, or boxing or whatever. What's his name? No, I can't think of his name. Y'all, I can picture it. He looks like a troll doll with white hair. What's his name? I love y'all. Somebody's going to say it in the chat in just a second. You're going to have him coming out of the woodwork and people like him screaming racism. Don King, thank you. I love you, Greek Gypsy. Thank you very much. Don King, you're going to have them coming out of the woodwork screaming racism. You're going to have the LGBTQ community coming out screaming about how it's because he's gay and all this other stuff. And it's going to be a whole new shit show going on. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Somebody says, what are you talking about? 3 other people already were arrested. Well, they're all arrested for that thing. Yeah, but Don Lemon being the main name. It's going to be a big deal. So you have here Jasmine Crockett immediately, of course, says, are you fucking kidding me? Don Lemon has been arrested by the DOJ, exercising her First Amendment constitutionally protected. Even she put this in there because she knows that she's wrong when she says this. Constitutionally protected right gets you locked up. Exercising your second gets you killed. And actual murder, well, in uniform, gets you nothing. This is not normal nor okay. That's what she had to say. Of course, Jasmine Crockett had something to say about it. But here is from Fox News. You guys want to listen to this for a second. You might have already seen it because I am not the first person to talk about this and I will not be the last. But take a look-see, listen. Here we go.
Has been arrested in connection with an anti-ICE protest at a church in St. Paul, Minnesota. Bill Malusia joins us now with more on this breaking news. Hey, Bill.
This was a couple hours ago, obviously.
Yeah, Charlie, good morning to you. Our colleague David Spunt and I getting this breaking news from multiple law enforcement sources just minutes ago, confirming that former CNN anchor Don Lemon has been arrested by federal agents in Los Angeles just after midnight this morning at a hotel. This obviously all in connection with that storming of a church in St. Paul, Minnesota by that group of anti-ICE agitators. Now remember, the feds had gone to judges to try to get Don Lemon arrested before. They went to a magistrate judge in Minnesota who didn't sign off on an arrest warrant for him. Then it went to a judge above him. He didn't sign off on an arrest warrant for him. Then it went to an appeals court. They also decided not to sign off for an arrest warrant for him. So there was experts who were predicting that perhaps the feds would go to a grand jury. It remains to be seen if that's what happened here.
So what we found out since then is that he did go to a grand jury and he was indicted by a grand jury, which is why they were able to finally arrest him, because the judges in Minnesota were like, oh no, we're not doing that. We don't want you to arrest him because I don't know, there's something in the water in Minnesota where whoever's drinking it on the left, I mean, it makes them dumber by the day, but he has definitely been arrested, right? He is still going through the process of the arrest, I believe. And it says here that, where is it? Hold on, there's a lot going on here. Where's the rest of it? Megyn Kelly posted it. I like what she had to say. Megyn Kelly said, there's no First Amendment right or protest or of the press to enter a house of worship and shut down a religious service. Lemon had no right to be there as a journalist or protester. Number 2, churches have statutory protection under the FACE Act. Remember, we talked about the FACE Act a couple days ago, maybe like a week ago, in conjunction with what was going on with him busting into the church like that. When those women that were arrested outside the abortion clinic, the Democrats had no problem arresting them, but for some reason they were all up in arms over the fact that Don Lemon could get in trouble for what he was doing. But the FACE Act, he went against the FACE Act, like that law. So she says here, like I said, churches have statutory protection under the FACE Act that make it clear that disrupting/interfering with the service/access of parishioners to the service is a criminal act. Criminal act. You don't get a pass just because you say, oh, I intended to come in here where I'm not allowed to interfere with your church service by sticking a microphone in people's faces, but it's okay because I'm doing it for my YouTube channel, right? And then it says here, if Lemon had stayed on the sidewalk, as every journalist knows we must do when covering a story on private property, unless we have advance permission to enter. She says we all deal with this. It's a pain in the neck to get permission sometimes, and it often means we miss the best pictures, but we comply with the law because we all know private property changes our rights. This would be a different case. He didn't. He trespassed, and not just into a private home or business, which could have resulted in a trespass case, but into a church in the middle of a service, which unfortunately for Lemon invokes all sorts of rock-solid rights of the churchgoers. In short, he chose the wrong event to storm. People were hurt. They were scared. He knew it, and his comments on camera prove he knew it. He broke the law. He's not only going to be prosecuted, he's going to be sued for a lot of money, and he should be. Even Blair White. You guys know who Blair White is? I I still say I mean, I don't know if he's had bottom surgery or not, but he's he's a transgender, which again, even Blair White will tell you that he has mental issues, which is why he thinks he's, you know, a woman or whatever. Even he posted, because I can't say she, I'm sorry, Blair, I can't do it, because you're a man. The Democrats posted on X, "Free Don Lemon, protect free speech," to which Blair White said, "Don Lemon's freedom of speech has not been violated. He violated people's freedom of religion. Fuck off," which is accurate. People seem to forget that there are consequences to actions, no matter who you think you are or what you think you're doing. There will always be consequences to your actions, whether they're good or bad, you know, is determined by your actions themselves. His actions were bad. His consequences for him are bad. For us, they're fucking great. I think it's absolutely amazing. Although Don Lemon, he's probably not going to hate being in jail. I feel like he will drop the soap as often as humanly possible. But anyway, so that's going on right now with Don Lemon going into jail. And then I saw AOC, of course, because heaven forbid AOC, you know, stays out of stuff because she has to put a nose in everything. She says, in regards to what Pam Bondi posted earlier this morning, she goes, "Between this, Epstein, and her attempted extortion of Minnesota voter files, Bondi should be up for impeachment too." AOC has absolutely no room to talk on anything whatsoever. I don't know why she is still in the role that she's in. We've already proven that during the Thanksgiving holiday, she basically stole funds that were given to her for turkeys for people in the neighborhoods and used them towards her campaign through the, what is it, Act Blue? We went over it during Thanksgiving when that happened. So the whole Don Lemon thing, Mike Harlow posted, "Don Lemon has been arrested and I'm not sure I can handle just how insufferable this is going to be," which is what I was just saying. He goes, "They're going to turn this bitch into Rosa Parks. They're going to have marches. They're all going to wear little yellow lemon hats and I'm already sick of it," which is exactly what's going to happen. Like I said, this is where my thoughts on this goes. And you don't have to agree with me. That's why I love it here, because we don't have to agree with each other. It's a conversation amongst peers, right? You have to wonder if the arrest of Don Lemon so quickly is designed to start a new set of protests and riots to take the eyes off of ICE and the immigration, which I'm perfectly fine with. Let it go back to black versus white, because that's what they pushed during the first Trump presidency. They pushed it like crazy. You guys remember, what is it? No, Kyle Rittenhouse was later, right? He was later. He wasn't during Trump presidency. My brain cannot put all these things into order here. But if this is the case, if Pam Bondi was like, "All right, listen, we got to do something because all this shit that's happening in Minneapolis is getting out of control. All these paid protesters who are breaking all kinds of laws on a daily basis, who are causing absolute chaos in Minneapolis. The mainstream media is running with it. It's all over social media in general. It's turning into something that is being talked about in numerous other countries. How do we take the eyes off of that?" Whereas those protests were designed, literally designed by the people funding them to take the eyes off of the fraud in Minneapolis, right? So you have everything designed to make you look over here, not over there, and they just keep kicking the can down the road, right? So now you've arrested Don Lemon, which, you know, I'm actually very happy about it. I just wonder if it's done to hopefully stop the protests against the ICE agents and the Border Patrol shown up and the police officers in general that Tim Walz had to let loose to help. And now it's going to go more into a racial divide, which they're generally speaking their favorite thing to push. That would then give the ICE agents the ability to safely, in theory, do their job. So I'm perfectly okay with the timing of Don Lemon being arrested, with how fast they fast-tracked it, because I think it needs to happen for the two reasons. For one, again, taking eyes off the ICE agents, and two, for showing people that, again, there's consequences to your actions, right? So then you've got, on top of all of that going on with Don Lemon, you have the persistence. You guys remember him. He was the one who helped with turning Pennsylvania red during the election process. He says accomplished journalists don't terrorize religious services, which I would have to agree with. I've never heard of Walter Cronkite going into a church and terrorizing people, or even Barbara Walters never went into a church and terrorized people like that. There are lines that do not get crossed, and once those lines are crossed, unfortunately, again, consequences for your actions, right? But of course, Hakeem Jeffries has to come out again, and he says, Don Lemon is an accomplished journalist whose urgent work is protected by the First Amendment. There is zero basis to arrest him, and he should be freed immediately. The Trump Justice Department is illegitimate, and these extremists will be held accountable for their crimes against the Constitution. And that's when the persistence replied to him, saying accomplished journalists don't terrorize religious services. But here's the thing. If somebody had gone into, let's say, I don't know, a white man had gone into a black church to protest for Republicans, don't you think that right now Hakeem Jeffries and AOC and Jasmine Crockett would be screaming at the top of their lungs about how there needed to be an arrest made because they were breaking the First Amendment for people who were peacefully worshiping inside of a church? You know that's exactly what would happen. But because the shoe happens to be on the other foot, they're going to pretend like that's not the case. It's always a rules for thee but not for me kind of situation when it comes to the Democrats. We've pointed it out numerous times, not just me, so many people have pointed out numerous times, and it gets really old after a while. Even Matt Walsh, because Ilhan Omar, bless her stupid, ignorant, just dipshit heart, she says, the arrests of Don Lemon, George Ford, and Jamal Lundy are unacceptable and a clear violation of the Constitution. This is a dangerous abuse of power that threatens the rights of every single American. They must be released immediately. Okay, to which Matt Walsh replied, invading a house of worship for a political protest is against federal law. If right-wingers stormed a mosque, we all know that you demand that they be arrested, you disgraceful fucking fraud. Again, exactly accurate there. It's one of those things of, because it's one of their people that has done the injustice, that they feel that the laws don't apply to them, right? So that's what's going on. Now, outside of Don Lemon, because there's a lot happening here, we could continue on. This is, I should read you this. This is the Don Lemon Show statement from, I don't know if it's Abby Lowell, attorney for Don Lemon. I guess that's how you say the person's name, but I'm just going to read this to you real fast because I saved it. Don Lemon was taken into custody by federal agents last night in Los Angeles, where he was covering the Grammy Awards. So he went from storming churches to covering Grammys. Okay. Don has been a journalist for 30 years, and his constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he has always done. The First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. There is no more important time for people like Don to be doing this work. Instead of investigating the federal agents who killed 2 peaceful Minnesota protesters, the Trump Justice Department is devoting its time, attention, and resources to this arrest, and that is the real indictment of wrongdoing in this case. This unprecedented attack on the First Amendment and transparent attempt to distract attention from the many crises facing this administration will not stand. Don will fight these charges vigorously and thoroughly in court. I'm sure he'll use 2 hands to do it also. Anyway, this again, I've said it before. I'm going to say it so many times, I'm going to sound like a broken fucking record, not on purpose. It's just exactly what it is. When they consistently lie to you because they believe the lie themselves, it takes away any credibility for anything they're going to say afterwards. 2 peaceful Minnesota protesters were killed. Well, the peaceful Minnesota protesters haven't been touched. The woman who in her car was egging on everybody, blocking traffic, and then tried to run over an ICE agent, yeah, no, she died. The man who brought a gun into the protest, which I think federally you're not allowed to have weapons like that, and he didn't have his ID on him, he didn't have his concealed carry permit on him, which I believe in Minnesota you have to have. I could be wrong. Forgive me if I am. Same man who had already had 2 altercations with ICE agents and had broken out a taillight in one of their vehicles, all these different things. Those are not peaceful protesters. I understand that Democrats are fucking retarded and don't understand the difference between peaceful and non-peaceful, as, explained here in this little letter from Don Lemon's lawyer. But I don't feel bad for the 2 people who lost their lives. I'm sure I should, as a human with empathy, sympathy, whatever, I should feel bad. Let's rephrase. I hate it for them that they lost their lives, but I do not feel bad that they put themselves into a situation and there were consequences for their actions. Okay? If I were to break into some place, or I were to do any of the things that those 2 had done, I would expect there to be consequences for my actions. Democrats don't see those for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. And then he says here, the First Amendment exists to protect journalists whose role it is to shine light on the truth and hold those in power accountable. How does breaking into a church during the middle of a service shine light on truth and hold those in power accountable? I'm sorry, were the people in the church part of the power? Were they doing something wrong? The hell does the church have? That's a weird phrase to say that. What the heck does going into a church have to do with anything? I have issues with all of that. It does not make sense. It does not add up. And just because they want to put words out and lie and make it seem some type of way doesn't make it fact or truth, right? Right. So that's that one. Hold on. But wait, there's more. Gunther Eagleman talking about Don Lemon being arrested, because everybody's talking about Don Lemon being arrested. We already did that. I don't want to do that again. So, okay, let's move away from Don Lemon for a minute, because I'm tired of talking about him. You guys are more than welcome to stay if that's all you wanted to hear about. Deuces, I love you anyway. But let's talk about the fact that, number one, where are we here? Number one, President Trump has officially selects this guy named Kevin Warsh. When you're Southern, I need to go wash my clothes. That's his last name, Kevin Warsh, as new Federal Reserve Chair. So say bye-bye to Jerome Powell, the money printer. That's what's his name? Meet Kevin used to call him the money printer, and he'd always do this kind of thing here. Say goodbye to Jerome Powell. So now you have Kevin Warsh as the new Federal Reserve Chair. And this is what President Trump had to say about all of this, okay? He says, I am pleased to announce that I am nominating Kevin Warsh to be the chairman of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Kevin currently serves as the Shepard Family Distinguished Visiting Fellow in Economics at the Hoover Institution and lecturer at the Stanford Graduate School of Business. He is a partner of Stanley Druckenmiller at Duquesne Family Office. I don't know how to say that. Kevin received his AB from Stanford University and JD from Harvard Law School. He has conducted extensive research in the field of economics and finance. Kevin issued an independent report to the Bank of England proposing reforms in the conduct of monetary policy in the United Kingdom. All right, all of this stuff is great. I don't care about what he has to say here. Unfortunately, it's just a lot of accolades and awards for this dude. What I do know is that President Trump is saying right now that we will have it'll be huge for lower rates, growth, and putting America first in monetary policy. I think that that's going to be absolutely amazing. I think that right now the housing market is like straight shit. My mother-in-law was trying to sell her home in Georgia. She put it on the market for a price that was probably a little too high for it to sell at. And then a ton of other people flooded the same market at the same time. And the prices were like a roller coaster of prices, right? And almost no houses were selling that were in the price range that made sense. Everybody was having to underprice in order to sell because the interest rates are so high. I think that we got so spoiled during the Biden administration, which I never thought I'd say those words ever in my life, but spoiled with the low interest rates for houses. When my husband and I bought a house in 2020. It was 2020. We got a rate at, I got a rate at 2.16 was our interest rate for our mortgage, which is, so stupid low. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then now you go and you're in the 6s, 7s, 8s. It's a lot harder for people to buy a house, and it's because the interest rates just continue to climb and climb and climb. So now if you have Jerome Powell out and this new Kevin Warsh guy in, in theory, according to President Trump, things should start to lower. We should see it easier for people to buy a home and sell a home, and numerous other benefits from it. So I am crossing my fingers for that, because people are always talking about how the economy is shit and all this other stuff. And it's like, well, President Trump has been in office for a year, but he can't just turn back everything that has happened during the whole entire Biden administration, right? So you can't make the prices of eggs change immediately. You can't make the interest rates go down immediately. You can't change the price of gas immediately. Everything has to work in conjunction with each other. So it might have taken a year, but right now gas is lower than it has been in forever and a day. Egg prices, although still shit ass high, are lower than they were during the end of the Biden presidency, right? Home prices are hopefully about to kind of settle and even out. And if we can get the interest rates back down, Americans will be able to own a home again, as opposed to it being, because he made it so that BlackRock can't own like all the real estate, right? There's a whole article that I had saved. I don't know where it is though. But he made it so that these institutions can't continuously buy up homes, because it's taking it away from the citizens, American citizens, the ability to buy a house, because now you have these big corporations who own them all, and then they're going to basically just ream you with the price of the house, or only rent it to you so you can never own. And it's been a whole just cluster, right? So now hopefully there will be some sort of relief for people in the housing market in and of itself. Somebody says, I'm not sure where you get your eggs from, but I just paid $1.50 for brown eggs. Okay, let me rephrase. I buy organic pasture raised. I'm the bougie one, and those prices are still pretty high. Anything organic or pasture raised or grass fed, grass finished in grocery stores seems to be a little higher still, because it's so hard for farmers and ranchers to own the land that they can do the regenerative growth with, or to afford the feed that doesn't have all the Monsanto chemicals in it and all this other shit. So the more you're trying to eat as healthy as possible, the more expensive it becomes. The worse the food is for you, the cheaper it becomes, because they need you to stay sick, so they make it so that you can only afford the stuff that keeps you sick. It's a whole different topic, y'all. So we're not going to do all of that, but I could say a whole bunch there, especially with stuff that's been coming out now about how much lead and arsenic is in candy, and then all the recalls on the Cheerios, the Pringles, the Skittles, and Benadryl, Advil, and Claritin. There was something else that was just recalled because of rat shit. Like, what are we doing? We're supposed to be the best country in the world for like health and food and safety and everything else, and we are constantly having recalls. Although I do know why, because we continuously let people who aren't actual citizens of this country and who don't like meat or certain things, or can't touch it or do stuff with it because of their religions, we continuously let them into our food industry, and then wonder why we've had such a massive uptick in recalls over the last however many years. So I'm just going to leave that there. The other thing that we could talk about right now, if you guys wanna, is the fact that I keep seeing, and I'm trying to figure this out, because I keep seeing that Catherine O'Hara passed away, right? She was the mom. Y'all might not care, but I love this woman. I don't know what she's like politically. I didn't want to look, because I didn't want to like ruin my childhood. But she was the one who played the mom in Home Alone, and she was a stepmom in Beetlejuice, the first one and the second one. And she's in Schitt's Creek, which is a friggin' hilarious TV show. No matter how you feel about people, that show is hilarious, and she was great as Moira. They're saying that she passed away, but then I had one person on the X feed that was like, no, she didn't, but everybody else is saying that she has passed away, and I don't know how to confirm it without being able to call her. You know what I mean? I don't have her phone number, because I'm a tiny little, YouTuber, not some big whatever. But if she did fully pass away, I think that sucks. She was only 71 years old. And she was great at acting and what she did. And I have to assume she did, because you've got Macaulay Culkin, already pinning a memorial kind of thing to her. I feel like he would know if it wasn't real. So that's that. What else do we have? Y'all, there's more. But wait, there's more. Y'all want to talk about... What is this? Do you want to talk about the Epstein files and the 3 million pages that were released? I kind of do. and I kind of don't, because that's a whole entire thing and we'd be here for hours. So I'm probably not going to do it right this second. Just FYI. What I will say is, where to go? Hold on, I have all my bookmarks here. Okay, we'll just talk about Bill Gates then. We're not going to talk about the full Jeffrey Epstein files, but we'll talk about Bill Gates, because y'all know I'm not a fan of Bill Gates to begin with, because he's been trying to destroy our food for the longest with the lab grown meats and all this other stuff. And I don't understand how a man who does not have any schooling in medicine or food or anything else has had his hands in everything, medicine and food and whatever related, and now nuclear stuff, because he's building that nuclear thing in, we talked about this probably like a year and a half ago, and I want to say Wisconsin, but that feels wrong. Whatever, it's a state that starts with a W or an M. That's all I remember. He's building this whole thing, but anyway, he like took down was it a Tyson plant? I don't remember what it was. Closed down a plant so he could put in a nuclear something or other. Too much in my brain, I don't remember. But from the Jeffrey Epstein files, according to this, the new Epstein file dump reveals Bill Gates was begging Jeffrey Epstein for antibiotics to discreetly slip to his then wife Melinda after Bill contracted STDs from sex with Russian girls. Gates also reportedly sent a description of his penis to Epstein. The email reveals Bill Gates and Bill Clinton are some really disgusting pigs. This is according to Nick Sorter. Now remember, his wife divorced him, and people kept talking about the fact that she divorced him because of Epstein, because of his friendship with Epstein. Maybe it's because of the STD. One day she woke up and she's like, it burns when I pee, it itches, it hurts, it whatever happens when you have an STD. I don't know. And then she was like, what the crap? And then he was like, by the way, there were some Russian girls. Jeffrey gave them to me, so blame him, not me. And then Melinda's like, I want a divorce. So I feel like that this whole thing from the Epstein files may be accurate. I will say, though, that the email itself is very weird to me because of how detailed the email is. Like, if you're Jeffrey Epstein, let me put it to you this way. If you're Jeffrey Epstein or you're Bill Gates, why would you at any point in time type out an email describing your penis, describing what you have done and who you are, and it's like put all this information in there? That doesn't really make sense to me. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Bill Gates is supposed to be a genius, right? Microsoft. He's supposed to be some sort of genius, but he wasn't smart enough, one, to wrap it up before he stuck it in some Russian chick he didn't know. Or two, not smart enough to not email Jeffrey Epstein from his own personal email and give details about his penis. I guess like computer smart doesn't equate to or equal over to or transfer to like normal smart, because this is a whole ass thing. It's a very long one. So Benny showed it. Okay, good. So if Benny showed it, then I'm gonna go ahead and tell you what it says, because I'm sure you already know. This happened on July 18th, 2013, according to this. And this one is, in theory, this one is from Bill Gates. Okay, the bottom one is from Bill Gates in theory. It says, I have decided to resign my position effective immediately with BG3 and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I have not come to this decision quickly or without a great deal of thought. During the past few... No. This is from Epstein. Oh, this bottom one's Epstein's. He goes, during the past few weeks, I've been caught up in severe marital dispute between Melinda and Bill. I have the greatest respect for my friend of 7 years and wish them both well. In my role as his right hand, I have been asked and wrongly acquiesced, I can't do the word, y'all, into participating in things that have ranged from the morally inappropriate to the ethically unsound, and have been repeatedly asked to do things that get near and potentially over the line into the illegal. Though it was kindly suggested that I make a transition to a new position after my 6 years of servitude, and that Bill would, in his words, give me 2 years severance pay, I feel it would be dishonest to myself and my future, from helping Bill to get drugs in order to deal with consequences of sex with Russian girls, to facilitating his illicit trysts with married women, to being asked to provide Adderall for bridge tournaments, as I am a medical doctor but have no prescriptions writing ability. That's from Jeffrey Epstein to Jeffrey Epstein is what it says. Both of these say to and from Jeffrey, which is where it gets confusing to me, because why would he email it to himself? So it says here, "Dear Bill, I cannot believe that you have chosen to," you know what? That makes way more sense. Come on, brain, do your job. Makes way more sense why Jeffrey sent it to himself, so that he had it in the inbox and the outbox. That's a sexual joke we could run with, but I'm not going to. In the inbox and outbox. So if somebody were to clear anything, he'd still have it in the other. Oh, okay. It says, "Dear Bill, I cannot believe that you have chosen to disregard our friendship developed over the last 6 years." Although the bottom one says 7, but whatever. "I am aware that accidents happen. It is how each of us has chosen to deal with this unfortunate event that has me dismayed beyond comprehension. You have decided to discharge me from my job, had Larry, your PR person, tell me that I engaged in morally inappropriate behavior, asked me to be the major actor in a cover-up so that you can maintain the reputation that you have worked so hard to achieve, asked me to recommit to a confidentiality agreement, and have categorically told me that we cannot have any direct ongoing business relationship in total disregard for its impact on the public perception of my reputation. I will have to diligently avoid the truth, tell people that Bill will not invest with me, and craft an answer that suits your needs, but you did agree to send you a letter of recommendation should a future employee ask for one. You have told me that Melinda insists on me not communicating with you unless Larry is copied or present, though you have consistently maintained that I could not have done a better job and that I was underpaid compared to my contribution. You then, beyond all sense of fairness and frankly decency, said that as generous compensation for keeping the Gates reputation intact, you would let me keep what we agreed I had already owned, which were investment pieces, and give me 2-year severance, similar to Christine Turner, another casualty. If the shoe was on the other foot, I would have said, Boris, this is not your fault. I confessed to Melinda, you didn't. It was in a moment of weakness, and I will do anything within my power to make it right for you. I have more money than anyone needs, and I assure you I will structure something so that you will not be penalized for my error." And then it goes on, there's all this shit, and then it says, "To add insult to injury, you then implore me to please delete the emails regarding your STD, your request that I provide you antibiotics that you can surreptitiously give to Melinda, and the description of your penis. You also made it clear to me that I am not to refer to," and this word's redacted, "as that is another topic that must remain between the two of us. In return for all of these requests, which I would have done without a second thought, I am not to attend meetings with Melinda. I shall continue to provide you the same level of service and dedication that I have done so diligently until you are ready to discard me and our friendship." Y'all, number one, that sounds real emotional. I don't know men that talk like, "until you are ready to discard me and our friendship." You think Epstein and Bill had a little tug of war going on there? You get it? Tug of, because 2 hands. That's possible. I would say that's probably possible. Also, anything is possible or plausible at this point in time. Who knows? I did see that somebody tried to say that with these millions of pages of Epstein files that came out, that now they're saying that the DOJ has already like redacted some of them, like taken it back or taken the link away. And somebody tried to say that there was stuff in there about President Trump and him, you know, with a 13-year-old girl, I'll put it that way, and selling things inside Mar-a-Lago and touching people to test their had they been used or not used before. I don't really know how to phrase it. I don't really want to phrase it anyway, whatever. But I can't find if any of that is real or not. So I don't know if you guys have seen it anywhere. I haven't watched anybody else's videos or anything like that, so I'm not sure if somebody else had it. Maybe Benny Johnson had it, or whoever else has talked about it today. But if you guys have seen that, I would like to know, because I don't know how much to really believe, you know, especially given the fact that these files have been around forever in theory, right? You had President Trump saying a lot of them are fake, not real, whatever. But if they were fake, don't you think that during the Biden administration, no, maybe not, because if they were fake, no, I mean, they never tried to get the Epstein files out during the Biden administration. Like AOC is all up in arms about the Epstein files, but never once during the Biden administration did she post anything or say anything about them needing to be released. None of that happened until President Trump and Elon Musk, it seems like formed a plan to get the left to start screaming for the release of the Epstein files. Because when they did, then you see Hakeem Jeffries and having issues with Jeffrey Epstein and a bunch of other Democrats, right? So I have to wonder how much of the stuff is real, because anybody can fake anything, falsify anything. It's always going to be difficult for me personally to 100% believe anything that we are shown by anybody at this point, with AI able to do what it does, with people in power knowingly, willingly lying about things, changing things. It makes it difficult to know what's real, what's not real. And if this is all just, some sort of keep the people entertained, like Gladiator. Are you not entertained? Like, that's what it feels like when they give us these little crumbs, these little things for us to have conversations about and run with and whatever else. Like, how much of it is actual, right? So that's that. Then I saw this thing here as well. Where is this? That's that. Hold on. I am not to attend, blah, blah, blah. That's the same email. Okay. No, that's it. That's the same email we were just looking at. But this here, I just thought was funny, and I just want to show it to you because it amused me. It's a Bernie Sanders sign, right? And you see it says, I took half of your sign because you had one and I didn't. I'm sure you understand. Huh? Get it? Because Bernie's a socialist, just like Mamdani in New York, who's destroying New York City already. He's been in office there for 30 days, and he's already kicking that thing straight into the shitter. And AOC and numerous others, they believe in taking from the people who have to give to the people who don't. So this is just ironically funny to me with the whole took half of your sign or whatever else. Also, Tim Walz. Y'all ready for this? We've been talking about Tim Walz a lot, over the past year and some change, or a year and a half, actually, since the beginning of the election process in 2024. And my distaste and disdain and loathing or whatever for him has grown exponentially in that time. I think that if I could punt him across the room, just like drop kick that little gnome of a man, I would do it and be happy with whatever consequences came from my actions. When we talked about the fact that he decided he wasn't going to run for governor again, we were all like, well, obviously, because your little ass is going to be sitting in jail, trying to not let Don Lemon drop the soap and whatever. I thought to myself, at least he'll be out of politics, except for maybe he won't, because let's try to wrap all this up together. So, Amy Klobuchar, however the crap you're supposed to name, Amy K. She has the Senate seat for Minnesota, right? And when Vince Bolter, how do you say his last name? I don't remember his last name. When Vince went out and murdered Melissa Hortman and her husband, and then attacked the other congressperson, which I don't remember his name, and I feel really bad about it, but I don't. He said that Tim Walz had also wanted him to kill Amy K, right? So that he could take her seat in the Senate. Then Tim Walz, like 48 hours ago, did this whole interview talking about how he's never going to run for an office again. And now here we are thinking about the fact that if Tim Walz is no longer governor, and now Amy K is going to run for governor of Minnesota, then her Senate seat is open. She could easily appoint him to take over her Senate seat. So that could be what happens. He might get a move up, which I don't see how that could be possible with him being under the microscope for all of the fraud that's going on in Minneapolis. But since nothing has been done as of yet, I almost think that they would let it happen, right? So Amy, the same one who we talked about yesterday, was all for everything President Trump is currently doing, but now that he's president, she's fully against it. She is worse than Tim Walz in how open she is to progressive thought processes and things like that. If she were to become governor of Minnesota, she can legally hand her seat over to Tim Walz. Maybe that's why she didn't get murdered, because Tim had like a plan with her. Like, this could all be shit that's happening in the background. It could have been Tim was like, hey, listen, I got this man for hire who's clearly fine with taking out somebody, you know, murdering people, and Amy, you're next on the list, unless, because Amy, she's got a Somali hand up her ass for the last however many years, having her do all kinds of stuff to help the Somali community. Could easily have been like, Tim Walz could have been like, hey, I know what you're doing and I can blackmail the shit out of you and you can end up in jail, or this is what we'll do. And this could have been planned far in advance, and now it just happens to be occurring at the same time that the fraud did come to light and everything else is happening. It's just very interesting how all of it seems to be able to be kind of tied up with a bow on it when it comes to Tim Walz leaving as governor and Amy Klobuchar, whatever, leaving the Senate. They could just literally swap. Just swap. I feel really bad for the people of Minnesota. And her smurfing, we talked about first. I was like, it sounds like a weird, like, anime cartoon porn, but whatever, it's not. It's an actual thing with the taking of the money and the whatevering. Why they came up with the name smurfing, I still don't know. Probably because it's only Democrats that do it. It's still a very weird name. There's a lot going on that, because there's so much other shit going on, it takes away from it. Like, it becomes not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Because you don't have time to really focus on what is happening because something new has happened. So once again, we're not looking at Ilhan Omar and her little faked attempt to, you know, look like she was attacked, because now we're looking at Don Lemon getting arrested. So Ilhan is out from under the radar again. Nobody's really paying attention to her. People are going to forget about it. And then the guy, you know, he's not going to get an award in the Academy Award or anything, because it was the worst acting I've ever seen in my life, but they'll just forget about it. They're not going to talk about Alex Preddy anymore. So I've seen a lot of people on YouTube using Alex Preddy's name in their thumbnails, and these people who would generally get hundreds of thousands of views getting microscopic. And I'm like, okay, the left doesn't want you talking about Alex Preddy anymore, because there's more information coming out about him, that he was not this loving ICU nurse that they claimed he was. There's a lot of negative information coming out about him, and they don't want that out there. They want to keep the left as up in arms and pissed off and emotionally charged as possible with the lies that they've been feeding them for the longest time. So now that the truth is coming out even more, they're stamping it down. They don't want you to see it, right? It's all a big production, a big circus, and I want to say that it's going to end at some point, but no, as long as we have government and politics and people, it will continue. It's just the way it's going to be. It will always be a shit show. There's no getting over it. It's a constant. It's a consistent thing. Whether it's Democrats, Republicans, independents, there's always somebody trying to take over by any means necessary. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate that we're that way. So I have a daughter. Let's go personal here for a second. My husband and I, we have a 16-year-old daughter. And I sent my husband a link on X this morning, no, Instagram this morning. One of the high schools from where we used to live had the students staged a protest walkout because of ICE, right? And we were having coffee after we picked our daughter up from school earlier today. And we're sitting there, and my husband turns to her and he goes, hey, listen, if your school, you hear that they're going to do some protest walkout for ICE or whatever, he said, call me and we'll come pick you up. And she was like, why? What do you mean? And he's like, I don't want you walking out with him. She goes, I'm not retarded. I'm not going out there with those people. She's like, I'm not doing that. She goes, if it was a protest walkout because they're letting boys into the girls' locker room, she goes, I'd walk out for that. I'd protest that. She goes, I'm not going to protest, you know, the people doing what they're supposed to do to keep our country safe. But then it's like, excuse me, y'all, if she doesn't walk out, then she's going to be targeted for being the student who didn't walk out. You know what I mean? Obviously, I've been talking too much. Hold on. But what I like is the fact that my child listens when we have conversations with her. We talk about everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, in the sense of Democrats, Republicans, everything else, right? She has friends who are liberals. Obviously, she's 16. Most kids are Democrat because they don't know any better. But she also has friends whose parents are obviously Republican. And so she hears both sides and she understands both sides. And she knows which side is where she falls in line with. You know, we don't tell her, you have to think like this. We tell her, hey, listen, this is what we believe. This is what we see. This is what we have lived through and why we are where we are now. This is how you get to where, you know, like random things like that. So she's never going to go into life ignorant or stupid of what's going on in politics or the people around her, the protests, any of that kind of stuff, right? So for her to go, I'm not walking out with them. And I tell her, I said, well, there'll be consequences. You know, people will notice that you didn't get up and leave. And she's like, all right, then it is what it is. If I lose a friend, I lose a friend. And I love my kid so much for the fact that she would rather stick to her morals, her ethics, her line of right and wrong than fit in with her peers, which is very, very difficult to do at 16. And now, of course, I will say this is all in theory. If it were to happen, I don't know that peer pressure would not get to her at some point. Hopefully not. But at 16, that's a really hard thing to have a firm stand on. You know what I mean? But again, because we raise her the way we do, I feel like we would be good there. But there's been a lot of protests and walkouts in schools saying that they're going to allow it and schools putting it together. And I think that that in and of itself is shit. Schools should have no part in the politics that are going on. If a student wants to not go to school because they want to go to a protest, that's on that student and their parents. But a school should not allow or facilitate any sort of protests and walkouts, especially a public school, elementary school, middle school, high school, public colleges, any of those kind of things. It should not be allowed, and there should be ramifications for it. My personal opinion. People aren't sending their kids to the school for them to leave the classrooms to go protest in the streets. They're sending them there to get an education. In Florida, but much better chance of getting an education than in Georgia or other states, California, New York, whatever, because of how left-leaning those places are. But at the end of the day, these schools are overstepping their boundaries, as far as I'm concerned, by not having consequences for the actions of the kids who get up and walk out of class. But that's a different topic also. I don't know, tangents all day long here. But because I can feel the fact that if I don't stop talking, we will not be able to have a video tomorrow, I'm going to tell you guys how much I love you and then let you go about the rest of your Friday, because it is Friday, my dudes. And I might see a little bit later on a recorded video, but probably not a live one. Thank you for being here for this one. I didn't have any groundbreaking stuff to bring you about Don Lemon. Everybody and their mama's talking about it. I just think it's great that consequences for actions are being given out like candy now to the people who need it. So that's that. $1.95. Go pick one of these jokers up. I got this at Barnes and Nobles today. Not sponsored, FYI. But for $2, keep this in your pocket. Anytime somebody has some smart shit to say, whip it out and be like, well, according to this. And then, you know, it just makes the conversation way more interesting. Besides that, have a fabulous day. For the people who are about to get another cold snap like we are in Florida, stay warm, okay? Stay warm, stay safe. Do not use gas generators and heaters in like closed-in spaces. Not a good idea. You'll end up brain dead like a libtard. That's about it. Okay. I love you, and I'll see y'all later. Bye. Adios.